Real quick, I already made this video 2 years ago, but then the game shut down and it got taken away. So if Multiversus can re-release, then I get to re-release this. You know what I'm saying? The footage will be from beta, but I made sure everything in here is still relevant, so I hope you enjoy. Also, some things had to be cut out because some things in the game were removed, but I don't want to talk about that. Learn to act immediately after all of your options in all of the different ways you can. Jump cancels, attack cancels, even just dashing out of danger. This will increase not only your own personal speed, but it'll help you understand the fundamental speed of the game as this implicit feeling in your bones. Multiversus tends to have very little end lag backed by a generous buffer system. Quickly escaping from your commitments isn't just what my grandparents did with their marriage, but it's an essential part of staying safe and re-engaging in combat. When you think about improving flow and stride in platformers like Mario, Donkey Kong, Celeste, there's a very clear progression in speed from one action to the next, and it's the same for platform fighters. Feeling stuck and like you're moving in molasses is often quite literally because you are stuck for longer than you need to be and moving slower than you could be. It's all about being ready for your next step and having the wherewithal to execute on it. It takes a bit of time, certainly some practice, but it's also something that you can see improvement on very, very quickly. You gotta learn the movement. Multiversus has a ton of movement mechanics, and you can use those to gain a burst of speed in a critical moment. If you're moving one direction, you can dodge in the other direction, and your momentum is cancelled on a dime. Much of the feeling of floatiness comes from how aerial attacks interact with momentum. Upward momentum is halted when you start most aerials, and many continue their float animation while gliding across the ground. Fast falls can be initiated in the middle of many of them, and the various charged aerials give you this varying window to time its release and threaten all this space. Movement is almost always the most important skill to learn in platform fighters, so growing accustomed to Multiversus specific options and the feeling of weight, it's pretty crucial if your goal is to feel comfortable in game. My goal is to feel comfortable around my family, so I don't think this will help. Offline resources are a fantastic way to learn each character's weird quirks or strange mechanics since everyone is available from the get-go. I remember I queued into a Superman for the first time and he kept grabbing me from New Mexico like he was, I don't know, Marth's deadbeat uncle, and I had no idea what was happening to the pixels on my screen, so I said, hey, take a pause, go to the lab, call up Dexter. I discovered he has about as much vertical speed as a League of Legends streamer on crutches. So next time I queued into a Superman, I still got hit. Dumbass hitbox. If Brawlhalla taught me one thing, it's that pain doesn't have to be inflicted physically for it to hurt. But if it taught me two things, it's that deep, extended edge guards are some of the most fun you can have on a screen. It might not always be optimal to LARP as James Cameron and deep sea dive every time your opponent goes off stage, but it is good to learn the skill so when it really matters, you aren't afraid to take that leap of faith. It's one thing to no holds barred edge guard around when you're goofing with your friends in a custom, and it's another when your last hit, last stock, 160 damage could get the win, but your palms are spaghetti, it's a guaranteed option. It's always good to get in those reps by SDing twice in queue in the first 30 seconds of a match and then waiting through 7 loading screens just to do it again. Get Olive Garden in Multiversus. There are some decisions that can completely alter the trajectory of your life as you know it. Choosing to go to college, signing a mortgage with your first home, twisting your ankle on a Pringles can beneath your desk while streaming League of Legends. Picking an initial main in Warner Brothers Super Slam does not need to be one of them, at least not yet. If your favorite corporate product isn't an SS tier or they've got the sub 48.09% overall win rate on patch 1.0.2.31, it'll be alright. Neither of us are probably good enough to where that matters anyway yet. As for the big boys, if you loved Adventure Time when it was on, give Jake a try. If you're a big fan of projectiles and cooldown management, Bugs Bunny is perfect for you. If you tortured animals as a child, Taz is right there. There's a billion reasons to pick a character. You don't even have to like what they look or sound like and know how to spell their name. As long as they're fun to play with you, that's all that matters, and it's probably gonna change a few times anyway. Who knows though. No matter who you pick, there's always gonna be that chatter of like, they didn't deserve to win because they were boosted by Jack Nicholson from The Shining's up air, and people are gonna try to clown on you and get salty because you're a character. Try not to take it personally, or really do that to others. I have some things I need to take back. If this is your first fighting game, just a heads up, sometimes there's this cultish aura around mains that can develop and people can get pretty viciously tribal against one another. But we all have a hole in the middle of our ass cheeks that brown goop comes out of, so try not to be a goblin. Where am I going with this? Don't be afraid to lose. In fact, embrace it. Multiversus is a wonderful, wacky mess. You're gonna whiff 80 punches in a row, you're gonna be killed by some absolute clown fiesta jank, you're gonna queue into a rain dog, but it's okay. It's all part of learning. You've probably heard it before, every loss is an opportunity to see your mistakes and grow and improve, but it's one of those things that you hear a lot because it's true. Sometimes those common sayings aren't worth putting any stock into. I did not get fired from my job because I kept giving matches to the kids, but this one does have merit. Losing sucks, but it's important, and it's not something to be afraid of. I feel like as people, we have this brain rot where nothing is ever enough and we must always be perfect, but the idea of perfection is unattainable. The idea of perfection is nearly unattainable, and I know our psyche is built with this self-protective layer of excuses and avoidance, but try to notice when that creeps up and redirect the emotional lizard brain into human critical thinking brain, if you can. I know firsthand that that's very difficult, but it is worth remembering and it is worth trying. I love fighting games, but they can be some of the most salt-inducing ones out there. Maybe one of the saltiest genres in general, because every game is a conversation. It's so personally invested. Every outplay, every mistake is directed at you. And for most of them, you don't have a teammate that you can blame, and you know ultimately it's kind of all on you, so it hurts even more. And then what tends to happen is in the pie chart percentage chart of all the anger and salt that gets directed outward, the whole portion that normally goes towards flaming your team gets redirected into the opponent or into the game developer territory. And that can lead to a pretty toxic community. So let's try to mitigate that if we can. Whenever I've made videos, I've emphasized at the very least to have the gamers around here in this circle, little mini community, avoid contributing to that. But luckily Multiversus does have teammates, so... If you want more detailed tips on mentality and pride and losing and all that, I made an hour-long guide that dives deeper into those topics specifically. It's loosely centered around Brawlhalla, but it applies to pretty much any game. There if you want it, not mandatory if you don't. I'm not your dad. Wait. James?